Good morning and welcome to another episode of Moms in Real Estate in the Morning. This is my favorite Monday of the month because this is our Money Matters episode with our in-house wealth expert, Danielle. And today I'm selfishly super excited because we're going to be talking about why the wealthy always have life insurance. And so for most of us as agents specifically, we think of life insurance as our just in case, our safety play to make sure that if something happens to us, our family still have income. But for wealthy people, they use this as a financial strategy that they intentionally use to grow their lifestyle, their wealth, all the things. And Danielle is going to walk us through that today. So hi, friend. How are you?
Hello, I am good. Thanks for the warm welcome as always. I love spending time with you.
I love it too. So let's jump right in. And why don't you tell us why life insurance is such a powerful tool beyond coverage? Because I think at this point, if you don't already know to get coverage, get with Danielle, get that coverage. No matter if you're a brand new agent or a highly seasoned agent, you need that coverage. But beyond that, why is life insurance such a powerful tool?
Yeah, so I think we can back up a little bit even because I think people, what I hear the most is life insurance is complicated. It's not fun to talk about, right? So what happens is we kind of just push it away. But what you want to be thinking about is that life insurance is not for when you pass away. Life insurance is for right now. So as entrepreneurs, you're building this incredible business, you're trying to build legacy for your family, and you need to protect you because you are the engine to your life that makes everything go round. And if something happens to you, life insurance can actually cover you while you're alive with this thing called living benefits. Okay, so that's step one, is that if you have this mindset that life insurance is just for when you pass away and leaving money for those that you leave behind, that couldn't be further from the truth. Okay. Number two, like Randy was saying, it's something you can use in your overall wealth strategy to really expand your plans for wealth building. So you can actually pour into life insurance to get those living benefits that we talked about and to build free cash while you're alive.
Mm. Love that. I love that. And I actually do know that I have living benefits on mine. So it's like an immediate peace of mind. Like, oh, great. They're not just good if I die. I'm okay if I get. But what is the difference between the types of policies that we hear about? Because I do think it's important to back it up a little bit. So when we're talking about that, what are the different policies?
Yeah. So there's, we've all heard the terms of whole life, IULs, and term. I feel like those are the three that we hear the most, but they're not all created equal. You can structure those policies all so differently. So let me give you a couple of real life examples of how you can use those types of policies, why you would want them, and how those two key elements of wealth building and living benefits come into play. So I had a client of mine who, Randy, I know you're a mom, I'm a mom, and she got a phone call that was a call that none of us ever want to have, which is from her husband. He called her and said, honey, he's been in an accident. It's bad. Get to the hospital now. Right? You feel that in your gut just hearing me say it. So she rushes to the hospital and there's, machines and doctors and chaos, and there's her son, and all she cares about is he going to be okay? And a month before this incident, she had actually gotten a policy on her children. She has 2 kids. And because of that, she notified me 3 days into the situation. He was in a coma. It triggered his living benefits. So they got a check for 80% of his death benefit right then and there, tax and penalty free. And what this allowed her to do was to turn off all of the noise and just focus in on helping her son get better, which is what we all want to do as moms, right? And so she didn't have to worry about missing work. She didn't have to worry about the bills that were stacking up because this policy was there. And now she got to just focus in on the recovery. He ended up being in a coma for 24 days. He is okay. And they have been on a physical therapy journey for the last 12 months. Okay, so that's one thing. We can't predict the future. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know when a crisis is going to hit us. And so having those living benefits gives you that peace of mind that if something happens to you, you're not having to tap into your retirement or your savings and then getting penalized or going 10 steps backwards in your financial journey, right? Now let's talk about a fun one, okay? Because that one's oh boy. Okay, so a fun story that I have for you is another client of mine who is an entrepreneur doing really well, has been scaling up and earning more money, and wanted to get his dream car, which was a G-Wagon. And he had been investing really heavily in an IUL, which is the policy that allows you to grow cash value. And he didn't want to take out a loan. He didn't want to pull from any of his cash flow from his business. So he pulled from his IUL. He bought a freaking G-Wagon with the cash value in his IUL policy. Okay. And then it gets even better because he's a business owner and you all know I love a good tax strategy. He bought the car under his business. So he was able to write that off and depreciate the value. So he like double dipped in the money. Okay. So that's like something cool you can do if you want to send your kids to college, if you want to buy a house, if you have this new idea or opportunity, you can seize the moment by using that cash to make it happen for you.
Well, both of those hit me in the feels. One, probably because Jordy has been talking to me about a G-Wagon since she was like 10. She doesn't have a lot of material goals, but a G-Wagon has always been one of them. But also, as somebody who has had my career disrupted so many times, and so I have had massive ups and downs in my real estate business based off of, sitting bedside with my son for his prognosis in that 3 to 5 year journey, and then, sitting by with my mom. And so it was always, I remember just thinking, like, I'll fix the things later. And you're so right. Like, to my core, I feel when you say like, silence the noise, you can silence the noise. And I love that you're expanding our horizons here, because one thing I always thought was, if my kids lose me, they're going to be hurting, but it's going to hurt less if they can go on a trip and remember me like in Switzerland and be like, hey, here's where mom always wanted to come. And they're not worried about paying the bills. Like, that's going to be different, but it is so true. Like, I cannot imagine what my life would look like today if I had known then and had some of these policies in place, and it wasn't just like acceptance, which of course, when you're in the thick of it and your child or your family member is facing death, you don't care. Like, you're like, I don't care. I'll just ignore the bills. I'll ignore the things. Like, I don't care if my credit tanks. I don't care if this happens. But by God's grace, as those people heal or, the seasons change and you move on, the reality of digging out of those, I mean, I'm still in the dig out 10 plus year, you know what I mean? I'm still in the dig out because of the different moving parts. So I love that. So I like that you're challenging our thought process. And as real estate agents, how can we begin to use life insurance as part of our financial plan?
Yeah, so life insurance is unique to every individual, right? So the first step would be like book a call with me so that we can talk about what are your goals and make sure that A, you're not overinsuring because you don't want to do that, and B, that you're using it truly as part of an extension to your financial plan with like your 401k and your savings and your retirement age and all of that, so that we're encompassing all of those goals. So it's unique to each individual's financial situation and where they're wanting to go with their money. So it really starts with having a phone call to understand what you want and then giving you guidance on what makes the most sense.
Well, on that note, like, what is the one thing that you wish women knew about protecting their money?
So I guess the number one thing as it relates to life insurance is that we so often, as entrepreneurs, we're so busy and we push things aside and we're like, oh, after the next deal, I'll get the coverage. Oh, this came up. I now can meet with the client, so I'm going to move the meeting. And the reality is that I can't guarantee that I can give you coverage. You have to qualify for it through an underwriting process. And that's based on your age, health, and your habits. So if there's one takeaway that you could get from this session is like, go make the call, make it a priority, because you don't know, you could go to your annual checkup tomorrow and have normal blood work the year before and do your normal blood panel. And now you're in type 2 diabetes, you're type 2 diabetic, right? And now that really handcuffs me in coverage. That doesn't mean that we can't get you coverage, but your premium's going to be higher and we may not be able to, depending on what your levels are and that kind of thing. So the number one thing is don't wait, because you really can't. And it's not like a fear factor or a like, hey, like this is a sales pitch. It's truly that I can tell you what the premium would look like. I can give you a quote any day, but I can't guarantee the policy will come to fruition because I don't know what your health habits and medical history look like.
Yeah. I think something that I was thinking as you were talking was how important it is to also establish a relationship with the person that you're buying. Well, I don't know if it's buying or enrolling, but getting the policy from, so that they can walk you through this process. Because as you were sharing everything you wish you knew, I was thinking about what I wish I knew before I started my policies. And I wish somebody had walked me through the different types and the different benefits, because I will tell you my honest journey was, thankfully, a kiddo that I got to adopt was exposed to life insurance and was like, Mom, you should have life insurance. And so we like grabbed a New York life policy. This was probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, for $1 million. And I just had that thing forever. And like, whatever, I don't know who my agent was. And then later on, I was like, oh, I want more. And so then I got some bigger policies, and nobody really talked to me about like what it looked like if, you just we're guilty of this in real estate, right? Like we're like all over the board. And like you said, we're always putting it off or we'll get it later. And I kind of had the mindset of like, okay, I'll it was a hard season, right? Because maybe I didn't have, apparently I didn't have policies with living benefits, right? And so it was a very hard season. It's like, okay, I'll get them back later. So then I let them lapse, right? And then I was like, oh my goodness, I never want that to happen. And I had the pain point of, okay, now I went from being probably overinsured with multi-millions to not having it. And so then I went into panic mode and I got them again. And the one thing that I can honestly say looking back is like, the value of having somebody that can sit down with you and say, okay, what do you really need realistically? And like, how can we look at this and plan for you living? And also what's realistic if things get tough, right? Because as agents, sometimes we're very blessed to have high incomes. And when we're in those high income seasons, we're like, give me a $3 million policy, no problem, and at my age, that looks like $1,000 and it's like, no problem. And then all of a sudden we're not in the same season. And it's like, shoot, I didn't get that policy, keep that policy going. And it starts it over. So I just really think, Danielle, and please, you tell me from your point of view, I'm obviously giving it to you as a perspective of somebody who is just navigated this journey, but how important is it to go into this, like you said, with the intentionality, the time on your side, and then with somebody that's actually going to want to have that relationship with you and not just have that one-time policy with you?
Yeah, it's so important. So like to your point, you want to make sure that this is something that you can pay for as long as it's structured to be paid. Because if your policy lapses, you're starting over in the underwriting process. And if a number of years have gone by, your health and habits may have changed. And so you may not qualify, and you're going to pay more than you were paying before, just naturally because you're older, especially if it's been 5 to 10 years, right? So I think that whoever you're working with, whether it's me or somebody else that you know in the industry, there's some questions that you should be asking your agent to really identify that they're in this for you, to really go and find the best solution, the best carrier, the best structure for you and your goals. Is to ask them, number one, are they nationwide? Because nationwide agents have a much larger reach with carriers and training. And then you want to ask them if they are a captive agent, because if they are a captive agent, what that means is they're only writing for a certain set of carriers. And so it's not that they're a bad agent in any sense. It's that they're only being trained on a little bit of the market. They're not being trained on everything. And so they may just not know that there's a better option for you out there. So you want somebody that has a wide reach of carriers. Like I have right now, I can rate with 23 different carriers, and that fluctuates. There's more and less. And then if there's certain situations where you're high risk, I may go get contracted with another carrier. And I have a huge tech stack that helps me find the very best solution for you based on your goals. And coming back to, you asked me like, what's the one thing you wish people knew? I'm going to add part 2 to that. And part 2 is that you can policy stack, which really helps you get the right goal for the right coverage. And like, as you age, you don't need millions and millions of dollars, because now you've paid down your mortgage. You've established some savings. You have your 401k, right? So you want a combination of like where you're at, especially if you're in like, let's say your 30s to 40s, you want to have a policy stack that's going to be part permanent coverage, part more coverage that's cheaper because it's term.
I love that. And my brain is just going, because what do you say to the people that maybe are like, me and, when I did get life insurance, it started with Dave Ramsey. So back in the day, I was a big Dave Ramsey girl. I was, an ELP for him. And so everything I did, and I just remember him screaming like very intently, like never get whole life insurance, right? I just remember him very loudly yelling that. And so I know that for me, it was just like, I set out on that mission to get like term and to know that, I think it was like 3 times your annual income. Make sure your policy is 3 times your annual income. And it was that simple. So for those people that kind of have those things, those notions embedded in their mindset, what would you say?
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone's going to have an opinion on things. Think about your industry, right? There's good
Right.
lenders, there's bad lenders, there's good agents, there's bad agents. I respectfully disagree with that for the reason that it all depends on how it's structured. So the lens that Dave Ramsey is talking about that is that whole life insurance is always going to be more expensive because it's permanent protection, right? It's with you forever. You're guaranteed that death benefit, so to speak, right? So when you structure a stack like we talked about, it makes it way more affordable, but it also guarantees that you're always going to have protection in place so that if you do, heaven forbid, develop Alzheimer's and need to be in long-term care, your family's not burdened with those expenses. Right now, that the costs for that are $8,000 to $12,000 per month to care for one person that's experiencing dementia, Alzheimer's, that sort of thing. Okay. So it all depends again on your goals. If you're like, you know what, I don't care, we'll just figure it out, then yeah, whole life's not going to be for you. But I haven't met somebody that's like, no, I want to burden my family with that. Right. So it's all about finding the right agent, making sure that their motivation is to create the right protection plan for you, not just write a policy.
Yeah. So good. Well, we want to leave you guys with an action step. And that action step is to contact Danielle and to, book a 15-minute audit, where you are, where you are now. Maybe you have absolutely nothing. Maybe you already have a few policies. Maybe you're like me and you're like, wait, stacking policies? This just got me excited. Let's talk about that. And so wherever you are, book that 15-minute audit with her. One of our goals, Kristen and my goals with Moms in Real Estate, is to be the connector to the trusted resource so that you don't have to figure out this the hard way. And so we are so thankful and honored that we get to partner with Danielle, who we know leads this from a heart first place. So Danielle, how do they book that 15-minute audit with you?
Yeah, so we're going to do the repost. So comment audit on the repost if you want it, and I'll send you a direct message with a link, or reach out to me directly on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram at Life by Danielle. And don't be shy, you guys. I know that this subject can feel confusing and you may feel some resistance around it. I love nothing more than helping you feel good about this piece of your wealth strategy. So we can do a free policy review. We can answer questions. We can talk about your specific situation. I just want to help. So don't be shy.
We love that. Well, thank you so much. And guys, I think we have next week, we're off one more week. And then we're off 2 more weeks. So we are still technically on spring break or summer vacation. As Moms in Real Estate, we're still on summer vacation, but we have continued to bring you Money Matters. And so we will be back on the 8th with our regularly scheduled morning show. Until then, I say watch all the reruns, especially those with Danielle, so you can learn all things about money management. All right, friend. Thank you so much as always. We appreciate you. Bye, guys.